All right, we are here for another episode of our conversation with my clients, and these are the case studies in the sense that I wanted my clients to share their experience. And a lot of times I don't even know, to be honest. There are clients I've talked to where their life has completely shifted after I stopped talking to them or after we finished a coaching session, and for several reasons. And I don't know what the influence was of coaching was or not until I actually connect with them. But really, my purpose is to help you understand what kind of support is out there for you. And so if my conversation with Shawn or any of my amazing clients helps you think about, well, where are the areas you're looking for support in your life, then it'll be amazing. And usually these conversations are fairly in depth. So even if it doesn't clarify that, you're going to gain a lot of value here, because people who are going to be on these conversations, they're incredible and they're awesome and their journey is amazing. That's why I work with them, because I learn a lot through the journey of working with them, because they're doing amazing things in their life. They're supporting their family in amazing ways. They're supporting their team, organizations, and their community in awesome ways. So it helps me grow as a human being. So these conversations are generally exciting for me, whether or not it's for a purpose. I would have these conversations regardless. So I really wanted to thank Shawn. Thank you for being here with us.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure.
Awesome. So let's get started. Maybe we can start with the background of it. When we got started, and it's been a little over a year and a half, maybe 2 years, right?
Not quite two, but close. Over a year and a half.
That we started working together, and we worked for a few months. So when you got started, what were you doing and why was it an interest for you to explore, and what kind of coaching did you go to?
Yeah, so when we first met, changed careers, my world got turned upside down with the corporate job I've been climbing the ladder on for 20 plus years, and moved into the sales role, and I was a little bit lost. I identified through all the coaching stuff and where I was at. I really attached my identity to my job.
Yeah.
And when I did that, the way that I felt, the way that I dealt with my life on a day-to-day basis was whether or not I had a good day or bad day at work, or I put a 20-hour day in at work, and then when I was home, I wasn't present. So I was trying to figure out my next steps. I knew the role I was going into in the sales role was a step up in a positive way, but yet I couldn't let go of the past because there wasn't clarity for me on what happened and why my role as VP of operations transitioned in a downward spiral with the owners. And so that's where you and I started talking. And when I first got to this point, I was really trying to find I'll say my purpose of kind of like, all right, what am I doing now? My kids were also transitioning. There was another phase. They were transitioning from going from high school into college and not being around all the time. So that was another phase that I had to kind of deal with during all of this chaotic transition, I'll call it. And let alone, I haven't worked on identifying what my needs are for the last 20 plus years. And I was always focused on everybody else, I thought, or my career. It was either career and then everybody else. And that's when we started talking, and I got that. I remember, it took me like 10 hours to answer 10 questions for me, or 5. I can't remember how many it was about, but you were asking questions just at the beginning about me, right? And I was asking questions about my life. And I'm like, I realized I put more time into planning at my job for my job than I have for my own life and my family. And that was, and deep, what I needed, for me and my family, what I felt and my values. And I was just kind of going through the motions, it felt like, prior to we started those conversations.
Yeah. And what made you even before the questionnaire you submitted, because for the way it needs to be interested in the coaching for me to even send the question.
Yeah.
So what got you even thinking about coaching to begin with in that context? Because I know you shared that, okay, that's what you were going through in your life. What got you even thinking, okay, maybe I need to talk to a coach? Because a lot of people don't even know that coaches exist.
So I really didn't know either at that time. I had no idea, but I was involved with an organization that provided a service for 1 hour a week to meet with you, right? And have those and start having a group discussion on different topics and things. So I took advantage of that just to kind of get an understanding of what coaching was about and the things that I could learn from other people as well. And it just felt right. And so that's why I decided to move forward with you and then also take the next steps, because I was still searching for that clarity in my life, and I really understanding and getting some tools in the toolbox to help me do that and get the thought processes going the right direction was what I was looking for. And it was perfect timing, actually. It just actually a lot of it was timing.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for sharing that. And a couple of things you mentioned there that are really important for people to hear, because a lot of people assume that because they've lived a certain amount of time or they've been in a career for a certain amount of time, it's assumed in the background that I should know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And what you shared so profoundly is that because you were so focused on your career, job, you're providing for a whole family. That's a lot of work. And a lot of times we get so busy, not just for months but for years, and we don't realize that we haven't actually stepped back and looked at, like, what am I actually building here? And it's usually in these transitions that you shared that we realize, okay, what's actually happening, and am I clear on what I'm doing? And most of the interviews like this that I've done is like, most people realize it in these transition moments that something is off. I feel like I'm taking it day by day. I feel like I'm going through the motions. I feel like I'm not clear on the long term. Now, would you say that's kind of what was happening?
Yeah, that was exactly what was happening, because I was also, it was like a feeling of depression was setting in, right? I was losing some motivation of things that I was always really good at, but just not knowing what I was trying to accomplish or where I was trying to go in my life. I don't say accomplish, that's not the right word, but just live, right? Just to live every day with that purpose versus searching for that purpose, and just it becomes a daily activity for me, and I just want that joy and happiness to just come every day instead of having to feel like I have to manufacture it or forget about it. Some days you just forget about it because you're grinding every day.
Yeah, I get it. And so you were going through the group process, and that was just I from connected to that organization that I was working with. It was once a month, and then that was in a group setting, and then you decided to move towards one-on-one coaching with me. So as you jumped in, what were you expecting, and what did you get? I'm curious to hear. What were your thoughts before, and what happened during the coaching process?
Well, I really didn't know what to expect, to be honest with
Yeah.
you. It was really a leap of faith. One of the main reasons was because I really connected with you in the previous sessions and talking with you, and I liked the message and a lot of the things that you were communicating. But I really didn't know what to expect. I figured there'd be a lot of work on myself and truly getting to, because I studied a little bit in advance, but trying to get an understanding of what what it is I'm looking for, and a lot of deep thought. That's kind of what I expected when I walked in, not knowing what it was going to do, but a lot of deep thought, and hopefully bring something out of the other side of some clarity to understand how to have some tools to guide myself for the future. When I got into it, I really, really enjoyed it because it tapped even deeper than what I thought. I mean, I can remember we were going through a meditation session, and the emotions just overwhelmed me about just visualizing myself, my future self. And I'm just like, oh my God, I can just feel my eyes swelling, and I've got my eyes closed and my whole body. And I'm like, how is this even happening? But it was really cool because it just got me to think a little bit differently and get in touch with myself differently versus just going through the motions, and truly digging deep to what I feel is the life that I want to live and deserve, including my family, including the people that I want in that life. Right. So it was really, really cool once I got into it. And there were so many things that we did that helped me and guide me even still today.
And just and by the way, anybody who's listening to this, none of this is like prearranged. I don't even
Right.
know what Sean is gonna say, to be honest. And I just, when you said it, it jogged my memory around like what happened. And I actually remember you sitting there, and I remember exactly how you described it. So I wanted this to be a more a very direct, a very vulnerable conversation around like what happens when you, because a lot of people don't understand it's actually a very deep process when you go through, depending on who the coach is and what kind of coaching you get. But for me personally, because I want to get people to connect with their long term, with their sense of purpose, with their sense of vision, what really matters to them in their life. So the conversations generally go deeper. And there are tools that we use as coaches. And one of those tools might be visualization, to get people to see what connects them to their life. And that makes a big difference. Now, just for who hasn't gone through the process, what actually, other than the visualization, what generally happens in the process of coaching for you? Like, what was happening for you to go deeper?
So for me, I think it really was the structure of a process to walk through clarity, focus, and continue on down, but also to dig deep within those. So what I really enjoyed that helped me was in dealing with you, you've never steered me towards a direction. You let me go that direction. And then you would just ask those questions to keep probing and digging deeper and digging deeper and digging deeper, and to really find out what really mattered in for me and what I was really trying to focus on. And I remember times where I was saying, yeah, I'm gonna do this, 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 and this. And you're like, whoa, let's talk about all that. Because I was like, I was just throwing everything on here. And he goes, well, this doesn't sound like it aligns with what we talked about in the past. So your guidance as I was walking through the process helped me tremendously stay more focused and bring me back, because I have never been through anything like this before. So my mind's racing and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to change the world now, and all this stuff. And then I'm like, well, slow down a minute. Let's take a step back. But going through that whole process was just very fulfilling for me. And the tools that I was able to take from that still help me today, and time management, to just goal setting, structure, the things that I want in life, knowing that, hey, look, nothing else gets in the way of what you really want. If that's what you're saying you want to do, nothing interrupts that. And saying no is okay, which is a hard thing for me to do, because I say yes to almost everything, it seems like, but I've gotten a lot better at saying no.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And there's a lot in there. So for those who are listening, so in because especially one-on-one coaching is so custom, I've never had two conversations that are the same, even if it's the same exact topic, even if I'm asking the same exact questions, it will go in a very different direction. And that's mainly because people's context, life, their own unique take and perspective, and how they've gone through life is so different that it will go in different directions. And so, for example, the way Shawn is sharing is that because Shawn is more action oriented, so I had to keep pulling him out of action to get him to really pause and reflect and see what feels truly aligned with what he had shared in the past, and what feels aligned with what he's creating long term. Now, that differs with somebody else who might not be action oriented and they're too much in thought. That will be very different for a client they're too stuck. Then we get them into action. So it's very different with different people, and it really depends what the needs of the clients are. What you need to move forward. And coaching is about getting you to move forward on your path, and to get you to have clarity and understanding and move forward towards what matters to you. And a couple of things that you shared, that it helps you with productivity and goal setting and setting up structure around your life, and the time management and boundaries around saying no. So other than those, what are some of the other things that you saw in relation, if you were to look at different parts of your life, your own growth, your relationships, or your business at large, the things that you were doing, and maybe even the spiritual side, your sense of purpose and other things? What are the differences, actual tangible differences, that you began to see in those areas?
Well, I'm going to say that I actually put a focus on them, and I spent time on those different areas of my life that I identified was important. And by spending time on that, what that does is that speak with the relationships with my wife, with all the transition that we had with work, my time being committed to work, and when I was home at times I wasn't present, the kids moving on, we turn and look at each other and we go, we got a lot of time together now, but yet we weren't spending a lot of time together. Okay, because I was always burning the candle at both ends and things like that. I didn't even have date night schedule, things like that. So working on that relationship was huge for me, and the guidance that you and I talked about, just understanding to connect with her too. But what was tangible there is it helped grow that relationship, right? It helped me get closer to my wife at that time that I needed to. And so that was a big help for me with my relationships. But again, it was just spending time on this stuff to feel the connection. Like now I feel every day I wake up, I feel great. I feel alive. Before I would be, is this the right day to get up? What's going on? But I just feel so much better because my mind and my plan, things are going the right direction for me. Now that had to change too. I mean, where we were talking, what I was gonna do isn't where I ended up going. So I mean, there's a lot of things happen there, but from a tangible side, it really was just me putting the time and focusing time every week on the things that I said mattered to me, whether if it was friends, whether it was, I got a block in my calendar, time with friends every week. I have that time, and I rarely miss it because that's important to me. And so that's my time to be social then. But yeah, it was really just working on all that stuff, so, and then just trying to implement it in my life, and it helped give me clarity for sure.
And thank you for sharing that and being vulnerable in that area, and especially for somebody who is on the professional side and you're so motivated, you're focused on your work, you're providing for your family. It is, and people don't realize this, it's so easy to lose sight of. So you're doing this whole thing, you might be motivated, you love your work, you're adding a lot of value in that organization, but you're not, that's not the only thing that you want. You care about your family, you care about your wife, care about your children, you care about your future, you care about your spiritual life, care about your sense of purpose. But what ends up happening, because we get so focused in one area, we completely lose sight of all the other things that are important to us. And I see that you kind of were able to step back and become conscious of, oh, okay, this area matters to me a lot too. And how do we do this? Especially in that transition where your kids are moving on and
Yeah.
how you have more time with your wife. And this is very normal. Like people don't realize. And for me, one of the reasons why I came into the coaching world is that none of this was part of my training and and schooling to think through all this stuff. It was just like you jump into work, get a job, and go towards that success path, the external success path.
Yes.
What are your thoughts about that?
Oh, that's 100% true. And I mean, it changed my life because I was now, what, work wasn't the priority, right? My family, my faith, that my health need to be my priority. Without health, the rest goes downhill very fast, right? So it allowed me to reprioritize what I thought was important and the things that I was doing, so that I spent my time in the right areas. And I do agree with you that we're programmed from right from the beginning that this is the way to do it. And the coaching for me, I didn't, I'm 52 now, and I was 50 something when we did this originally. But for me, I was like, I had no idea that this was even out there. And so the more that this gets out there, I think it will help people, because I think we had this conversation. The cell phones, the internet, all that allow, we become more secluded in this world instead of opening up to the groups. And, we talked about, you know, the world now is down to the core nucleus family versus it was a village before that used to raise all of us. Well, we only know what we know now because there's just the core people around us. And if I've never been experienced to it, my kids aren't going to see that. So that's why I have the talks with Shawn with the 4 kids that live with me, and they get a little annoyed with it sometimes, but I think it'll resonate with them when they get a little older.
Yeah, so just for context, so Shawn started these talks with it, and which is such a great thing that you're doing, because you're connecting with them and you're sharing your thoughts, and it's a more open, vulnerable space where they can get to come. So your children, I think it was one of your, I think, son's friend too, that was part of it. Is that still the case?
Yes, sir. They're all still here.
Yeah, so Shawn began to have those talks with them, and that's like just one simple shift like that gets you to connect better with those around you. And I know that you have a bigger mission around that. Would you like to share a little bit about that? Like,
Yeah. So ultimately, to kind of lead into what we were just talking about, we only know what we know, and I feel so many people do not get exposure to someone like you or others like you One, it can be a financial burden, right? There, on some of these folks, and they have a hard time just going to get groceries, for the day, right? So they're not even thinking about, I'm not spending money on trying to become better. It's really about, I want to reach out to the youth and help them find this clarity in their life earlier, instead of getting to that time in life like I was and go, oh, and having this aha moment at 50. And if we can help them, if I can help one person, my kids, whoever, their friends, just have them think a little different and impact, to look at what matters to them, and that they're building a life. They're not building a career. You're building your life. And in that life, there's these things that matter to you that you got to put a focus on. And that's what I want to help expose them to, whether or not they come for a month, they come for a day, they come however that happens. If they just think about it down the road, and go, I want to learn a little bit more, then they'll start maybe doing the podcast, listening to other things, that's self-learning, and then go on that journey. And I'd love to see them do that. And I just want to expose them to it. That's all.
Yeah, I love that. And I think you're already doing that with your own family within.
Yep.
This is like how you described that we live in nuclear families, and the challenge is that because we haven't dealt with that, we haven't worked through this stuff, we're not passing it on. And so one of my mission is to really work with leaders who actually, like most people I work with, they come through a business program a lot like you do, but then it ends up actually being a lot about their personal life.
Correct.
A lot of it comes down to the personal life, what's actually happening. But the cool thing that happens is that they start to shift how they connect with their family, a lot like you did. They start to shift how they grow within their relationship. They pass that on. And my vision is that as all you need is one person in one family in one organization to change. As soon as that person changes, it naturally starts to go there. And on the other side of it is I know coaches who are at every level. So coaches who are working with elementary students. A lot of people don't know that. So I have a coach, amazing guy. His contract is with the organization. He will go and share stories and get them to think about their life, like at an elementary school level.
Love it.
There are coaches who go into the corporate world. There are coaches who go into other organizations. There are coaches who exclusively work with couples. There are coaches who work with families. I think the reason why coaching is like wildfire right now, because there's a need for it that's coming around, because the world is expanding much more. Like it's becoming smaller in the sense that we're also connected, but it's too much information.
Yeah.
Too many things to make sense of. And our mind tends to go compare us with all sorts of other people, times, what's happening, how's this person going about their life. And we end up subconsciously, not consciously, we kind of trying to just imitate other people. And that might not be the kind of life we want. Might not be the kind of path we want. And one of the main reasons why coaching is very helpful is that it gets you to step back from your life and really get reoriented. What really matters to you in your heart and your soul, and what will work for you versus what works for your neighbor, your cousin, your business partner, or whoever else. What are your thoughts about that? I'm curious.
Yeah, I totally agree, because so many things are surface, right? And I was one of those that, what you saw was on the surface, right? It was not, there was only times I was vulnerable. In certain moments I might have been vulnerable, but now I live my life every day being vulnerable.
Yeah.
When I get up in the morning with my morning routine, it's I am looking at myself as like, how do I bring joy to my life today and others, right? A servant attitude towards others, even in my job, with my kids. Who can I reach out to today? Who do I talk to today? What is my plans are all about serving others in my mindset. And what that does is that automatically lets the joy come into my life, because I'm focused on the things that matter. And so for me, I had to get my mind right in the morning and then live that way. And now I'm happy. I'm standing upright, breathing every day. And I know today is going to be an awesome day, versus before it was like, didn't know what was going to happen. I was so stressed about what was already on my schedule. I was already so stressed about, what was happening that weekend. I got all this gray hair, back in the day. And now I just feel more whole, I guess is the way I can put it for myself. There's still challenges. Trust me. It's not an easy road. Okay. And to stay on that path, I had to continue, like, being a part of the learning and daily, getting, podcasts slash, being a part of a program where I'm getting some information daily on how to handle things or do things. I'm constantly learning because I got to keep the mind right, because it is easy to fall off the path. It's real easy to go back to what I've done for 50 years, right? And I've done that. And then I always remember oh, you reeling me in on some of that stuff. And I'm like, all right, I got to just step back. What really matters to me and what am I focused on? And making sure that I'm not overdoing that. I've got this list of stuff or these things in my life that matter, and that's my focus. So that's what happens for me. And today I just wake up with that feeling inside of wholeness, joy. Doesn't mean stress doesn't come in and things like that, but I can get away with it because I meditate more now. I didn't meditate at all before. The release technique that we did, I mean, I still do that today. I do that before meetings. I do that before I come in the house. There's a lot of things that help me get my mind right to where I'm not carrying whatever just happened into the next moment of joy, or the things that I'm opening my eyes to see. Like my daughters, communicating with my adult kids. It's like, it's a whole different world for me, because I'm used to I'm the guy that says, hey, this is what we do. This is how we're going to do it. Let's get this done. Well, that doesn't work anymore when they're 20 and 21 years old, right? And so I just kind of looked back at where you weren't telling me anything at 20 or 21 back in the day. So now it's more about discussion, asking them the open-ended questions so that they're thinking about what they're doing. So all in all, it gave me the ability to understand how to always come back to living with joy and happiness and feeling whole every day. That's what I felt after our training, what happened for me.
I really love that. And what I also heard was that it just to kind of break it down for someone who might be listening to, is that you developed certain habits and ways of looking at your life that helps you, even though there might be new challenges that come up, your life might take a different turn. And that's what coaching is about, that I don't want you to be dependent on me. I want you to develop the tools and the skill sets and awareness to be able to deal with your own challenges, because challenges, you can create all sorts of plans, but life has an interesting way of tweaking those plans for you or completely throwing them off. But what I heard was that you developed the skill sets, some tools, some awareness, some habits that helped you not only manage your life better, but create a better quality of life and approach to your life, where you feel much better, but you're actually serving others. You're showing up in a servant, as a servant mindset, to serve others, to bring that joy into your home, into the organizations that you're connected to. Would you say that's accurate? Just, I want to check in.
Yeah, absolutely. Would say it's accurate. 100% for me. That was spot on.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Now, one last thing, I know you did share around the productivity side, the time it helped you with getting a little bit more structured and help you become more productive and help you get better with your boundaries and also time management. Now, specifically, if you were to talk about, because I know we had many conversations around the business side of things, around the work side of things, even though it might have changed, how did that help you at the time?
Well, it allowed me, time blocking was amazing for me, and really planning my weeks out in advance and setting time aside for the key activities, I would say, and then turning off the distractions, right? That was a big part of it, because every time your email goes off, it dings and you want to look at it. Yeah. And so for me, it's getting rid of the distractions at the times that I do have, with the times I do have blocked. And it has allowed me to be more productive in life, and with all facets, with friends, spirituality, work, side hustle, all these things. I block my time now, and then I also block my time for sleep, for when it's time to wind down, so that I don't get too carried away. And next thing you know, it's 1 a.m. because I'm just grinding, which is what happens. But I feel now I get more done with the blocking of time, because I'm really putting more quality time into each area that I'm focused on. And so that helps me with my daily activities, and feel like I'm moving forward. I will say the biggest thing that for me is like that I have to get around more people that have a like mindset, because being on the journey by yourself it gets hard to manage by yourself at times. So So I think that's the next step for me is how do I find this into a group or other people that do these kind of things so that I can stay connected and also see what other people are doing, because I'm only doing what I think that I know is right. And there might be other things to help me. So
Yeah, we can talk about that because I have a program for that. Actually, on the other side of it, so most people who go on this journey, what they end up noticing is that they start to grow and they notice that other people are still around them. They're in a different kind of mindset. They have a different approach. While you can still support them, stay connected with them, we need to be engaged with people who are thinking at a very similar level, because that helps you, like you said, doesn't make you feel alone and you feel like things are normal. So when things feel abnormal to our nervous system, we feel like something is off, but in reality it's not. It's just that you need more feedback from your environment. We're a social
sure.
species, and then that's what we're all seeking. And there are programs, by the way, for that. So I have a good group coaching program, and that was actually after we started working together. So so that was an interesting shift for me. What ended up happening a lot, like how you described, when I would work with my clients, they would go back to their normal environment. A lot of times they feel like they're alone. They feel like other people might not fully
Yes,
understand.
sir.
They're on a different path. And then I'm like, okay, maybe they need another kind of environment to help them, and they didn't know where to look, because a lot of people who are on this path, they're actually not that common. Not everybody's thinking about these things. So that might be, so part of the reason why you might come into coaching is to get around those kind of people as well, to get feedback for a lot of the things that you're doing. That's where masterminds come in, group coaching programs come in, a lot of things like that. Now, I'd love to ask, so who would you recommend, if you were to kind of sharing those with somebody, who would you recommend for a coaching that you went through? Like who's ready for coaching in your opinion, based on your experience?
Yeah, that's a good question. I like that question. I'm just going to relate it to me and where I was at. And it's somewhere where you got a little confusion going on in your life. You don't have that clarity of what really matters. If you're not happy, if you're not feeling joy, if you're not feeling good on a daily basis, it could be just digging deeper into some of these things that we're talking about to really let that come out as a person. I think if you're transitioning careers and you're not sure what's going on and you're scared, you're nervous, anytime you move out of something you've been doing for 12, 13, 20 years, there's a comfort level and you want to try something new. You might want to jump that hurdle, and the fear is coming in, right? You're like, stopping you from moving forward. The coaching could help you maybe overcome that, or not maybe, it would help you overcome that and look at things differently. So if you're looking to do something totally out of your wheelhouse, something that's not normal for you, but something you want to do, that getting over that fear is going to be your biggest hurdle. So I really think it's about connecting with yourself. If you're really looking to connect deep with yourself, I think coaching's a part of that, because you'll help them. You helped me anyways, getting touch deeper and think deeper, ask different questions versus just surface stuff. I think that's so important, Faisal. So those are the two things that I would say. If you want to go to the next level on something and you're afraid, you got fear in a way, or you want to really truly get deep into your own personality and who you are and your values and core.
Thank you for being so clear on that. I love that. And also, would you recommend my coaching, like directly, like for somebody to get in touch?
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. Because the comfort level that I had, the ease to be open and vulnerable, the trust, is huge for most people, but it was really huge for me. I just feel very comfortable when we were having our sessions, and you weren't leading and steering, you were just letting it happen and guiding me to a way that, I don't say guiding, but you were giving me the ideas to think for myself, right? We were talking about things and you were challenging me. That's the word I was looking for. You challenged me to look at things differently, and how to maybe get to those. I still had to do the work. I had to put a ton of work in behind the scenes on a weekly basis to be prepared, because I did not want to come into these meetings not being prepared to get the full exposure of what could happen to me. And there was, like I said, that time when I got emotional, that was really an eye opener. Like, wow, the power of some of these things I don't even know about. And then that continued my learning journey and listening to books on tape and podcasts, because I'm on the road a lot with sales. But yeah, so I would definitely recommend you 150%. It changed my life. it helped me tremendously.
And was it worth the investment?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's the biggest thing, right? That it's always the biggest thing. I remember I had to go through it in the beginning. I'm like, you know, but the thing about that is I can't put a value on what I got out of that, to be quite frank. And I'm not saying that just to say it. I'm telling you that what I learned and it helped me learn and where I got to, I can't put a value on it. So it definitely is worth it. The investment, I'm willing to spend $7 on a cup of coffee multiple times. I think I can take and invest in myself a little bit, which is what I've been doing this ever since we've had our coaching, is continue to invest in myself.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And this is, I mean, exactly as you described it, for most people, the shift that they make in their life, they don't know how to put a value on that because it's so incredibly, and I've thought about this one, like, what is the price of somebody who's at the verge of divorce, and they go through a process for a few months and all of a sudden they get to keep their marriage, they get to connect with their children better. What's the price of somebody gaining control of their health? What is the price of somebody gaining a control of their sense of purpose? What is the price of somebody getting clear on their path and getting focused on really what matters? I mean, at some point, like, if you really look at the numbers on the back end, you can put some tangible stuff on it. And actually, one of my friends who's a coach, he asked me, he's like, I put an investment of like 10K when I was starting out. And he's like, was that worth it? And I thought about it, and like, first of all, a lot like you, like, a lot of the stuff is priceless. But then I looked at the revenue side of things, like on my business and how I've grown on the past. Of course, I had to get other supports too. But if that was the starting point, that was the ROI for me was 50 times. And that's why I believe so much in just on the monetary side. And there are a lot of the kind of person I've become, the journey that I've been on, the leader that I've become, and it's priceless to me. Like, I'm not that person that I was even a few years ago or a few months ago because of the coaching. And I really want to celebrate and honor you because, like you said, you had to do a lot of the work. It's actually much easier for coaches sitting here and getting you to go deeper because it's much more painful. You had a lot of times. And a lot of times it's also joyful, but you need to go out there in your life, have the courage to actually act on the commitments that you made. And that's ultimately coaching is about. Once we get clarity, then the rest is movement forward. Well, what are you going to do about that? And how are we moving our life forward, whether that's in your relationship, in your business, and in your own growth, whatever that looks like. You had to take the action, and I really want to celebrate you on that. And I really appreciate you sharing so vulnerably all your experience. And I wasn't expecting any of that stuff. I didn't know. I was completely
open. My pleasure. It was definitely life-changing for me, and it gave me a lot of tools to continue to use. It's not easy. Like I said, I've fallen backwards, but I have the tools and understand what to do to get back on track, get that train going down the track again.
All right. And thank you for sharing all of that. And I really appreciate you being here. And I know you're busy with all sorts of things, spending almost an hour with me. I appreciate being here. And whoever is listening to this, if you have not gone through a coaching process, as you can tell, it's even hard. It's so hard to describe even from a client's end. A lot of times I'm describing it like, no, I want my clients to describe it because they've gone through the experience. But even then, it's actually it doesn't do it justice. It's a lot like taking a picture of like a mountainside that you go through. The experience of it is much better and much more different than somebody describing it. So if you're open to growing in any part of your life, go through the experience of coaching. Go try out a couple of coaches. Reach out to me. Most coaches will do an initial session as a bonus or a lower rate. And usually if you're part of a different organization, they will do it as a bonus, and they will walk you through an experience, and then you can decide whether or not it's for you. And it might be the thing that completely transforms your life, get you to go to the next level, or get you to understand what really matters to you and get you to take action in areas that you might be hesitating in. And aside from that, you can find me on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, on my website, faisalensaun.com. And thank you again, Shawn, for being here.
My pleasure, Faisal. It's always a pleasure. Thank you, my friend.